Hi all, welcome to the week 1 module of Writing 122. If you've made it this far, that means that you've waded through all of the somewhat dull, perhaps, but very important policies that were covered in the Start Here module. One last time, I'll say if you're unclear on any of those policies, please feel free to email me, or better yet, to post those questions to our Someone Help Me Q&A forum. The likelihood is that if you have a question, another student has that same question. That way we can all learn, answer those questions at once, and maybe even help each other out. Now finally, here in week 1, we get to actually read and engage with a very central concept to this course. We're finally getting into the course material here. That concept is the idea of the discourse community. It's important for this course. It's an important concept in writing studies more generally. So before we start off on that adventure this week, this brief video will serve to overview the goals of this course, the trajectory of all of the assignments that will help us achieve them, and give us sort of a snapshot of everything we're going to be doing in this course very, very briefly. It's a very large, very zoomed out overview. As you here we have our syllabus. I actually downloaded the syllabus. This is the Word document. Unfortunately, Canvas doesn't have Garamond, which is this very nice font that I think looks quite good. So we're looking at it in Word here. I won't read you the entire course description, but I will focus on this highlighted line. We are asked to create an original inquiry project. These inquiry projects involve both primary and secondary research, and they challenge students to examine the ways writing, rhetoric, and/or language or literacy functions within a particular community, whether that's academic or non-academic. If you have no idea what that means, that's absolutely fine. You probably shouldn't yet, but I want you to keep this idea in mind here, this idea of the way writing works within a particular community as we go on and discuss and define and understand the characteristics of discourse communities this week. There's a connection here, is what I'm saying. So here are the course outcomes, the learning outcomes. I simply like to think of them as the goals, but here's what we are supposed to learn in this class. Again, I'll go over them once, but if they don't make sense to you yet, that's absolutely fine. This is something we'll achieve throughout the entire length of the 10 weeks, is to understand and reflect on these course outcomes. So at the conclusion of this course, students will be able to apply concepts from writing and rhetoric to identify and analyze complex real-world rhetorical situations. They will be able to create an inquiry project that contributes to the scholarship on writing, rhetoric, and language literacy, and includes appropriate primary and secondary research, demonstrate flexible and appropriate composing processes, provide constructive peer feedback, as well as respond effectively to peer and instructor feedback, make deliberate choices about text structure, paragraphing, sentence structure, word choice, citation conventions effectively for the situation, and lastly, make claims about how to apply their writing knowledge to new contexts by reflecting on their inquiry, reading, and writing throughout the course. So, as I said, if that doesn't make it an absolute, if that doesn't make sense to you yet, that's okay. We'll define them in our own words, and in fact, we'll reflect on them throughout the term. In fact, our final assignment, all final assignments in all sections of Writing 122 here at WU will do just that. Reflect on what we learned, especially by focusing on these learning outcomes or these course outcomes. So how will we achieve these goals? Well, there's a very important part of the syllabus tucked sneakily away down below. And here it is. It's a preliminary overview list of our assignments. As you can see, we really just have 3 assignments here. We have 3 projects, I should say. Entering the conversation argument, the discourse community report, and then our final reflective portfolio. As you can see, each of these projects is made up of scaffolded assignments that build to a larger, more high-stakes assignment. That's the case with the entering the conversation argument. That's the case here. We have these small 10, 15, 25, 50, these small scaffolded assignments that help prepare us for the larger sort of finished project. In the case of the discourse community report, it's the discourse community report. In the case of the entering the conversation argument, it's the entering the conversation argument. So here is a brief description of these projects. And again, I think a brief description is all we'll need at this point. So the entering the conversation argument is a multiple part project culminating in a clear, organized, well-researched, well-argued, well-supported argument. If you can't tell, the focus here is on building a strong logos-based, ethos-based argument. We'll define those terms. Writers will focus on inventing good research questions and ultimately finding a specific debatable thesis about any issue or conflict concerning the discourse community. That's in bold because it will become important later on, but I won't go into it now. The audience are members of the discourse community or outsiders who are interested in issues and conflicts addressed. The discourse community report, as you can see, our biggest, our most weighty as far as points go project, is a multiple part project culminating in an essay that contributes to the scholarship on writing, rhetoric, and language literacy and includes appropriate primary and secondary research. If you recall the learning outcomes we just looked at, you can tell this project is designed to hit learning outcome number 2. It's almost verbatim, right? Writers will focus on inventing good research questions and ultimately finding a specific debatable thesis about how the chosen discourse community uses writing, rhetoric, language, or literacy. If you're an astute listener, you'll notice that that's a key difference between these two. The entering the conversation argument doesn't necessarily have to be about language. The discourse community report absolutely does have to make some sort of claim about how our chosen community uses writing or language or rhetoric or literacy. We'll go over this when we're transitioning into the discourse community report again. So if these terms aren't clicking with you, that's fine. It's absolutely fine. We're just doing an overview here. So as the topic changes a little bit, the audience also changes. The audience in this case are scholars who are interested in rhetoric, language, literacy, writing studies, discourse communities, etc. And finally, we have our reflective portfolio unit. Students will collect, select, and reflect on their writing throughout the entire term. So briefly, we'll take a look at that final assignment just to make sure we're prepared for it. So here we go. As you can see, here in the reflective portfolio, the point I want to make is this assignment has 2 parts, an essay in which we reflect on the writing we've done, and the portfolio itself, which is a selection of the work we've done in the course. another moment I want to highlight is you will be asked in your portfolio in that second portion to include 5 to 7 pieces of your own writing. There's much more to this assignment. What I want to drive home is twofold. One, we will begin and end our class thinking about these learning goals. And two, we will need to use the writing we've done all term to reflect on those goals. So this is important, and I'm saying it now. Keep all of the writing you do this term. I think most of it will remain in Canvas, but anything that you do outside of Canvas, which might include, scribbling, free writing, outlining, even work from other classes, those may provide good evidence for us in our final reflective portfolio. So I'll say it again. Keep all of the writing you do in this class because we'll need to reflect on it and actually include some of it in a portfolio for our final assignment. Great. So on to week 1, in which we understand and begin to actually even analyze some of the own discourse communities that we're a part of. In week 2, we'll really dive into the Entering the Conversation argument project in more detail. So stay tuned for that. More to come. Off to the exciting world of week 1 tasks.